Hey, it's author and attorney Kelly O'Connell from Knockout Podcasts. I love stirring the pot and discussing fascinating topics, and what could be more compelling than the latest phrase and most controversial subject, critical race theory. So thanks for tuning in, and now I have an important question for you. Would you be offended or just confused if someone you'd never met called you an untrustworthy race bigot just based upon your skin color? Yeah, that nutsoid concept used to be employed by the KKK, which, don't forget, was the paramilitary group of the Democratic Party. But now the critical race theory people are taking over, and it's supposed to be in every debate and law and important topic and educational system until we throw out all the racist institutions. That's what they believe. But what is it actually? No book that I've found completely lays it out, so I'm going to sum it up for you. But understand that it's at the core very bad. It can't redeem anything. It doesn't claim that, for example, white people are really redeemable, and could end up causing a race war in America. Yes, folks, it's that bad. Where's it from? And who invented critical race theory? Well, all right, so the phrase critical theory comes from the Frankfurt School of Germany, which relocated to America in the 1930s to avoid destruction by Hitler. And these were a group of people that were very intense Marxists, and because Hitler felt like there was a conflict between what he was doing with the fascists and the communists. And the reason of that is because they were so close. Communism is basically the same thing as fascism, except the way that they run the economy. So in communism, the leadership takes over all businesses. It confiscates them, and then it chooses party apparatchiks or basically party functionaries, people that are very, very dedicated to the party, to run these businesses. The problem with that is it's not very efficient. As you can understand, running a business that you don't know anything about is destined for failure. So the fascists decided in following Marx that what they would do is allow the business owners to keep their businesses. But unless they followed the government, unless the business owners followed the government, then they would have their businesses shut down too, and they would turn to another person to provide what they wanted. So this Frankfurt school gets the message that they're going to be wiped out, and so they relocate to the United States and end up in New York and New Jersey, and they put this school together here, but they're trying to figure out a way to take over the West and or take over capitalist states, places with freedom and such. And so they came up with critical theory, and critical theory was just not more sophisticated than it sounds. They wanted to criticize all of the institutions in America so that the institutions would be eventually overturned and recreated. So they wanted a revolution. And the revolution coming out of these universities, because they realized that the workers were not unhappy in America, and they were not going to overthrow their bosses, as Marx called them to do. So what they had to do is get deeper into the system of America and teach children, teach the youngsters, the young people in the university system to reject America, to reject capitalism, to claim that it was fundamentally unfair. So then, once you've got this going, in the 1970s, you've got Derrick Bell, who is a professor in the Ivy League, and he brought critical theory, which he admitted was just another type of Marxism, and he put race, because he's a black professor. He's passed away, but he wanted to inject his critical theory into his Marxist theory and put race together with it. So he's kind of the father of critical race theory. He died in 2011 at the age of 80. He was the first black man to be hired as a law professor at Harvard University. So he is the one who argued these things. Now, I've got some points here. And he was actually appointed to the University of Oregon School of Law as the dean. I was actually there. I never even heard of him when I was there, but I was there as an undergraduate, and he had been the dean there. But all right, let's get into this here. The claim was from the Frankfurt School that man could not be objective and that there are no universal truths. So think about this. It's all about power. So they're focusing on using the law because the law was the most powerful institution to take on all of these institutions, the rest of the institutions, and because it's intertwined with social issues. But Derrick Bell argued that it inherently favors the interest of the established power structure. So even the law was perverted. So here are 10 facts about critical race theory that I want you to think about and understand that this is not any more sophisticated than what I'm talking about here, and yet it is devastating. When you apply critical race theory, it is like an acid. It eats up everything. So here, number one, race is the ultimate reality. So all society must be viewed through this prism. Now, you might think it's your religious belief. Other people might think it's gender. Another individual might think it's their political views, whether you're a liberal or a conservative. But the critical race theory people believe that race is the ultimate reality. There is nothing that goes beyond race. So all of society has to be viewed through the prism of race, and then we have to decide whether something is good or bad by how the racial elements are treated, how well they do. All right. Number two. Now, remember I said that Marxism was the foundation of this. So, number two, the second belief, the white race has subjugated all other races historically. And so this brings in number three, master and slave, the paradigm which represents the Marxist worldview. There's takers and takees. There's masters and there's slaves. There's workers and there's bosses. You see? So everything is broken down into these strata, basically. And since racism was at the beginning of the culture, of the society, all institutions are racist. And so what do you think happens? You can guess. Number five, American law is racist, including the Constitution, due process, property rights, etc. Okay, why is it racist? Because it is inherently designed to favor the makers. And the makers of the Constitution were, white European men. And so everything about that was meant and built to favor them staying in power and staying rich and having all kinds of rights. All right, number six, race is the reason for individual success or failure, not talent, not work ethic, or character. And if people don't make it, it's because if a black person doesn't make it, or another minority, it's because the white man has taken away that opportunity. All right, number seven, institutions must be destroyed and rebuilt to root out the racism. Although it says that all people are racial. All people are racist, basically. So it's got some contradictions in it. Number eight, victims beaten down for years need to be re-educated for a new way of life so people learn how to stand up for themselves. Okay? Now, Derrick Bell, as I mentioned, had developed critical race theory, and he admitted that it was based on Marxism. And then number 10, as advocates demand increasing concessions, as you see all the time, a race war may be the conclusion of this entire undertaking. So that's what we're dealing with here. And just think about what's going on in the culture right now. Okay, and I've got some examples of critical race theory that are in the news. And don't forget, originally Trump had banned critical race theory teaching in the government, and that got a lot of people mad at him. But he knew what he was talking about, obviously. Now, just recently, and this is in the last day or two, Ron DeSantis bans from Florida, from the state of Florida, teaching critical race theory. Number 3, Pastor Vadi Bakum warns that critical race theory, if brought into the church, is going to create a war. And he's absolutely right. And they are teaching it now. They're making it mandatory teaching in some of these seminaries. So it's going to be, there's not going to be any end to it. Elementary schools, they're teaching critical race theory, and a lot of parents are getting upset at this because it is teaching, it's teaching, as you can imagine, as I've already told you, that white people are inherently racist, and the entire system has to be overturned. Now, why you would want some teaching like that in a school with young kids who can't really process information and really don't even know what is being talked about is crazy. But you see how these far leftists will go when they try to misuse what should be just non-ideological, teaching kids how to read, how to write, how to think, how to use logic, and how to do other more advanced type things like higher math and everything, sciences. You're misusing this opportunity by turning this, really what it is religious. And that's another element here, is the religious nature of the belief system. The way people talk about it who are involved in it have a religious way of expressing themselves. All right. Another part of it is that CRT, critical race theory, is racist. Now, it's not racist in the sense that you would normally go run into somebody, hear about somebody, say that person's a racist. This is meant to be racist, if you understand. And because it's meant to be racist, there's nothing wrong with calling it racist. And so you've got this thing sweeping across the world, sweeping across America. And what is it trying to do? I mean, it's ultimately trying to take over the world. It's trying to take over America. And so don't forget, the goal of Marxism is revolution, because they know you can't overturn society without a revolution. You can't get a new society unless you get rid of the old one. So, I mean, I think that it's worth remembering that what we're battling for here is for the future of the West. We're fighting against inherent bias and bigotry. We're arguing against bad logic. And we have seen how these cancel culture people, if you disagree with them about the race theory, about critical race theory, they want you gone yesterday. And so if we don't fight it, if we don't cut it off at the root now, we will never get rid of it. Thanks. This is Kelly, and I really appreciate you tuning in, and I hope to see you tomorrow in the next podcast. Ciao.